TomoNews presents Body Transplantation.
Woman sees dead brother's face on transplant recipient. In 1997, Richard Norris accidentally blew off half of his face with a shotgun. For more than a decade, he lived as a recluse because he was so badly disfigured. Norris underwent more than 30 operations to try and correct the damage, but they were unsuccessful. He became depressed and suicidal, and rarely ventured out from his home until he underwent a life-changing surgery. In 2012, Rebecca Aversano's 21-year-old brother Josh died in a car accident. The resemblance between the two, including skin tone and bone structure, was uncanny, doctors at the University of Maryland said. Aversano's family agreed to donate her brother's face to Norris. The 2012 face transplant surgery involved 150 doctors and nurses, and took 36 hours. Richard had jawbones, teeth, tongue, muscles, and nerves replaced. 60 Minutes Australia released a promo video, where Aversano will see her brother's face on Norris for the very first time. Norris says he's since found love and is living in Virginia.
New face, new man. The Mitch Hunter story. Aside from that Rip Van Winkle beard, Mitch Hunter of Indiana here looks pretty normal, no? Well, this was Mitch shortly after a 2001 car accident in which, according to the Daily Mail, Mitch was a passenger riding with friends when their car slammed into a utility pole. While successfully saving one of his companions by pushing away a live wire, the high-voltage cable zapped Hunter with 10,000 volts of electricity for roughly 5 minutes. Mitch flatlined in the ambulance twice. The accident caused such severe burns, Mitch Hunter lost a leg and his face. Despite many surgeries, his face remained horrifically scarred. This former U.S. Army private once thought he'd never be able to walk down the street again without scaring children. But in April 2011, he was given a very special gift. Hunter became the second person in the United States, and only the third in the entire world, to receive a full face transplant. It's taken him 5 years of slow progress, but this week Hunter revealed himself to the world in an interview with a CNN affiliate, and wow, talk about life-changing. Hunter says he's now just another face in the crowd, which is awesome. He drives to work, goes shopping, catches a movie, with no one ever knowing he once literally did not have a face. Hunter received a new nose, facial animation muscles and nerves, eyelids, and the rest of a face from a donor in a 14-hour procedure in 2011. Mitch can now feel hot, cold, pain, being tickled, and even the sensation of rubbing his beard. And in what must be one of the best rediscoveries, he can now feel being kissed on his face. Mitch and his girlfriend Katerina held off on having kids until after the groundbreaking surgery. They are now proud parents of a little boy named Clayton. A very happy ending to a story that kind of puts the daily BS most of us go through into context, no?
Doctor planning world's first head transplant admits he doesn't know how to do it. An Italian neuroscientist who claimed he could transplant a human head to a donor body admitted he actually did not know how to perform a head transplant and asked for help from America during a rambling presentation before a conference of surgeons on Friday. Sergio Canavero gave his presentation at the American Academy of Neurological and Orthopedic Surgeons and International College of Surgeons, at which the man who was volunteered to have his head transplanted by Canavero, Russian computer scientist Valery Spiridonov, was present. Spiridonov suffers from a rare genetic muscle-wasting disease and says he wants to have the chance of a new body before he dies. Canavero's plan, as detailed in the online journal Surgical Neurology International, is to cool Spiridonov's head to help the brain survive when it is removed from its blood supply. The head's blood vessels would be cut and attached to tubes connected to the donor body. The spinal cord would then be cut with an ultra-sharp nanoblade that would sever the nerve fibers without crushing them. The tubes would then be removed and the blood vessels in Spiridonov's head connected to those of the donor body. Finally, polyethylene glycol would be used to fuse the two ends of the spinal cords together. Spiridonov would spend the next 3 to 4 weeks in an artificial coma for his head and his new body to heal. Canavero claims his patient would be able to walk within a year. During his rambling 2.5-hour presentation on Friday, according to NBC News, Canavero compared himself to Dr. Frankenstein and asked his audience to suspend all judgment. It was only during the last 10 minutes that he admitted that he did not know how to perform a head transplant. he failed to explain how he could quickly re-establish blood supply to his patient's brain, which can only survive for a few minutes without blood. Nor did he say how he would awaken his patient from a coma. Spiridonov, who watched the proceedings from a mobilized wheelchair, looked confused, NBC reported. Canavero suggested getting a billionaire to fund his experiment. "I am asking you, Americans, to make your contribution," he said. "I have a detailed plan to do it."
Artificial corneas could restore vision in humans. A British eye surgeon hopes to perform the country's first artificial cornea transplant and initiate a UK trial of the procedure by early next year. Millions worldwide could benefit from the groundbreaking eye surgery procedure that's able to correct blindness caused by malnutrition, disease, or old age. A healthy cornea lets light into the back of the eye to the retina so that people can see. Damaged or scarred tissue on the cornea can cause blurred vision or loss of eyesight altogether. Scientists are able to create a synthetic cornea by growing human collagen in yeast. The collagen is then molded into the shape of a cornea, which is about the same shape as a contact lens. The synthetic replacement is stitched in place of the old damaged tissue. The patient's cells and corneal nerves then grow into the implant. As donor corneas are in short supply, if scientists are able to create artificial corneas and skip the process of waiting for a donor, it'll mean wonders for people who are visually impaired. Disfigured ex-firefighter gets new face. A 41-year-old father of 5 underwent an extensive full-face transplant in August, which saw an 150-person medical team at NYU's Langone Medical Center perform a procedure that had an only 50% chance of success. In September 2001, volunteer firefighter Patrick Hardison suffered disfiguring burns while responding to a house fire in Mississippi. 14 years later, a team of plastic surgeons gave him the face of 26-year-old David Rodabow, who was pronounced dead following a cycling accident. The procedure involved slitting the skin at the back of Rodabow's head, peeling off each side towards the ears, while including key pieces of bone around the nose, chin, and cheekbones. After the scarred tissue on Hardison's face was cut away, the donor face was laid over his head and secured into position using screws and metal plates, a grueling 26-hour operation. Hardison's new face swelled by 50% immediately after the operation, but gradually calmed down with the help of immunosuppressants he will need to take for the rest of his life. The entire operation cost between $850,000 and $1 million, the same cost as a liver transplant, and was paid for by a university grant. Baltimore boy gets world's first double hand transplant. An 8-year-old Baltimore boy who lost his hands to a serious infection when he was a toddler has become the world's youngest double hand transplant recipient. Zion Harvey, an 8-year-old boy whose hands were amputated, has successfully received a pair of new hands. Surgeons first connected Zion's forearm bones to the donated hands with steel plates and screws. Then they used microvascular surgical techniques to connect the arteries and veins. Once blood started circulating, muscles and tendons were repaired and rejoined one by one. Nerves were then reattached before the surgery was finished. Zion is expected to recover in hospital for several weeks and will still need to attend months of therapy sessions.
Altruistic kidney donor sets off domino effect, saves 6 lives. A US woman who volunteered to donate her kidney to a stranger has started a chain reaction that has made 6 kidney transplants possible. Zuli Broussard of Sacramento wanted to donate one of her kidneys to a friend. In the end, the friend was incompatible and had to use another donor, but Broussard still offered to donate to a stranger. California Pacific Medical Center found a match for Broussard, a man from Benicia whose sister-in-law was not a match but who was also willing to donate, setting off a domino effect that involved 6 pairs of donors and recipients. The surgeries performed on the first donor-recipient pair started at 7:30 a.m. Thursday. Surgeries for 2 more pairs are scheduled for later the same day, while the 3 remaining pairs will undergo surgery the next day. The 6-way 12-person kidney transplant is not the largest one ever performed in the United States. In 2001, a similar chain of kidney transplants at Johns Hopkins Hospital involved 30 pairs of donors and recipients.
Doctors reveal the reason behind a botched uterus transplant. Doctors revealed last Friday that the United States' first attempt at a uterus transplant earlier this year failed due to an extremely ubiquitous culprit, a common species of yeast. The first uterus transplant in the United States in late February involved removing the uterus, cervix, and part of the vagina from an organ donor and moving the organs into 26-year-old Lindsay McFarland. 2 weeks after the surgery, complications arose due to a yeast infection. The species of yeast responsible usually resides alongside other microbes in the body. However, a weaker immune system caused by the medication McFarland was taking after the surgery may have allowed the yeast to spread in her organs. The infection ended up affecting McFarland's arteries and prevented blood flow to her uterus. McFarland started to bleed heavily due to the infection and was rushed to the hospital, and doctors were forced to remove the affected transplanted uterus. Doctors say that McFarland, the mother of 3 adopted children, is now doing well after her surgery to remove the transplant.
Iraq War veteran Brendan Morocco expressed hopefulness at the Johns Hopkins Hospital, where he received a double arm transplant. Morocco lost his arms and legs 4 years ago when the armored vehicle he was driving in Iraq was blasted by a roadside bomb. The 13-hour bilateral arm transplant surgery involved 16 doctors who connected the donor's arms, bones, arteries, muscles, nerves, and skin with those of Morocco's. At the press conference, the 16-year-old war veteran displayed some movement in his left arm.
I can rotate a little bit. This arm is pretty much not much movement at all, not yet, at least. Hopefully, we're hopeful for the future too.
Morocco also spoke about his goal to participate in the hand cycle marathon.